Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Carrow Road. It's a big one today, isn't it? Norwich City hosting fellow strugglers Blackburn Rovers here. Feels like one of those first kind of 6 pointers of the season, this, at the wrong end of the championship table. Obviously, just 1 point separating these two teams heading into this game at the bottom end of the championship, albeit maybe their overall trajectory feeling like it's going in different directions. Let's bring you that Norwich City team. We can do that. It is unchanged from last weekend. That defeat against Middlesbrough, which contained plenty of positives, and Philippe Clement agrees. So it's gone for the same 11. Kovacic in goal, Fisher, McConville, Cordoba and Krezene as the back four. Wright and Kenny McLean, the midfield two, with Diallo and Ahmed on either flank and Slimani behind Jovan Makama. The big news really from the bench is both Sam Field and Mo Toure make it. So the bench in full: Grimshaw, Stacey, Darlingfield, Gibbs, Springett, Schwartau, Chris Goran and Mohamed Toure. So I'll just run through that for you. Again, you can see it scrolling at the bottom of your screen. I'll add the subs to that in a moment. It's Kovacic in goal, Fisher, McConville, Cordoba and Krezene as the back four, Wright and McLean the midfield two, Diallo and Ahmed on either flank, with Slimani behind Jovan Makama, and the subs bench containing those two late signings in the window: Grimshaw, Stacey, Darlingfield, Gibbs, Springett, Schwartau, Chris Goran and Mo Toure. So Tony Springett back into the team, Toure and Field on the bench. Obviously, we know about Mate Jurasek's injury that's going to keep him out for a little while. No Emi Marcondes again on that bench, and no Jakov Medic and Errol Wonder-Smith, who was on it last weekend, not on it this time around. Paddy, given the context and how they did at Middlesbrough and the positives I think we all took from that game, probably understandable that Philippe Clement has opted for an unchanged 11.
Yeah, I think so. No debate in terms of the back four, Kovacic. So Jacob Wright, I guess there was a question mark there. But then do you pitch Sam Field in straight away? He's decided not to on that basis, as experienced as he is. That probably is a level of disruption for what feels a big game, and we'll get into that in due course. But I can see why he's retained Wright. And we said it in the press room about half an hour or so ago. I know he got hooked early in the second half, but at Borough he's up against Hayden Hackney, the best operator in this division in that area of the pitch. And Aidan Morris is a very good player as well. So benchmark against who he was up against last Saturday, I don't think you can be too harsh on Jacob Wright. It didn't really happen for him alongside Kenny, but he's retained those two as a pair. And then I didn't really see too many other options. Jallo and Ahmed, that has everything you'd want in terms of threats and creativity and the potential to really test a Blackburn backline, as they did in good periods against Middlesbrough. And Slimani, yes, no goal or assist last weekend, but prior to that, he's on an unbelievable run. Why wouldn't you go with him again? And maybe, given Toure has made the bench, little signal for Jovan Makama, maybe just to pick it up again. Again, you don't really want to benchmark him by what he was producing pre-Christmas over the Christmas period, because that's unfair on a young player who was in League One last season and really came in as a project this season. It's a testament to him that he is, in light of others not being here and unavailable at the moment, the main man up top. But I think we'd all see really that the last 2 or 3 games, certainly in terms of inside the box, there's not been that threat level. And outside the box, for me, there's areas of his game that he needs to improve, understandably. So just now with the presence of Toure on the bench, a little spark there maybe of competition. What we got?
I was just laughing at that last comment, saying they're glad to see you still alive after that Sargent question yesterday.
It's all good back and forth. Nobody needs to worry. We have good banter off camera.
It ended very amicably.
No, we got into golf handicaps and all sorts. So no problem there. No problem there. But no status change there, Connor. Just in case anyone was in any doubt. No status.
You don't need to ask anymore.
We won't be asking anymore. No, until he tells us that he's off to Toronto.
Yeah.
But you asked me, am I surprised that 11 unchanged? No, not really. I'll bowl that to you. You got any surprises there?
No, I think probably the only one I wouldn't have been surprised about if he'd have dropped Field straight in that defensive setup. But then you think about the type of game probably that this is going to be and the type of opposition it's going to be. Could you foresee a situation where Norwich have a bit more of the ball, are probably territorially have a bit more dominance? That probably would lean itself to Jacob Wright, I would say. And I think he probably has got enough credit to write off what happened last week. It wasn't his best performance, but like you say, you have to put it in the context of he was up against Hayden Hackney, Morris. For me, the best team. Sorry, but for me, the best team in the league at the moment. I'd be very surprised if they don't go on and win the title from here. So I think you do have to recognise it in that context and the way that Middles were pressed as well. You'd be very surprised to see Blackburn press in the same way. We've got the drill out down here. I'm not sure what's going on. There's a seat being worked on.
Where we are, well, just to let anybody know, it's not Philip going for the old teeth extraction route. Don't ask him any more questions about that. We are, anybody who knows where the press box here is at the back of the City stand. There is some emergency repairs to one of these yellow seats about 3 rows from the front. Oh dear.
So yeah, be careful if you're coming in and sitting on that seat today. But hopefully it'll be sorted. Let's answer this one. Paris Makoma still being built up. Philippe Clement said, still very much in a process. He was out for a long period of time before joining Norwich City. I suspect it will probably be West Brom next weekend where we see him. That would kind of feel like the first natural outing for him. I mean, we've mentioned Jovan Makama there, and I guess that attacking quartet now generally kind of pace, power. Physicality, it feels probably a lot more what we would associate with a Philippe Clement attack line, even if maybe he didn't quite get the striker that he wanted, as he made perfectly clear yesterday.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and there's I think there's a sense now. If you look at Toure, you look at how he's promoted and encouraged Jovan Makama. That is the type of striker I think he wants leading his line. Chris Gordon, it doesn't look increasingly that he's the type of player he would naturally lean towards. And of course, you referenced it there, the one he talked about who got away yesterday, who we don't have to be, as I put in the newsletter, I think you don't have to be Agatha Christie to work out. He's talking about Bodo Glimt's Casper who again, in terms of a type of striker, much more robust, much more physical, much more of a presence than a Chris Gordon. So it's a shame that there's a certain American who we won't mention who probably fits that criteria as well, but that is very much moving it forward from here with another window obviously to come in the summer. They're the type of profile I think in the top end of the pitch, which is where Philippe said at the start of January we needed to we as in Norwich, added more creativity. I think they probably was looking for a bit more power and a bit more pace as well, and from everything you read and see with Toure, it feels like he might offer a little bit of that. So really intriguing to see if he gets any game time today, and then how he goes for his first hit out in the English Championship.
Let's bring you the Blackburn team. I mean, this could be a 4, it could be a 3. We'll obviously wait and see how it lines up. They have been playing with a 3, so I'll do it in that formation. And with a caveat, it could be a back 4, but they've got Toth in goal, Carter, McLaughlin, and Cashin. The back 3, Miller, Tronstad, Berardi, and Alabusi, the midfield 4, with Todd Cantwell, who captains the team on his Carrow Road return behind Morishita and Ohashi. Their subs bench is Mikalski, Pickering, O'Royden, Garda Hickman, Montgomery, Deneve, Alaforin, who signed for them, Jorgensen, and Gudjonsson. So that is how Blackburn line up. If it is a 4, I suspect it will be Toth, Miller, Carter, McLaughlin, and Cashin. Maybe it's a left back, Tronstad and Berardi, and then maybe Alabusi in a slightly more forward position with Morishita on the left and Cantwell behind Ohashi. So we'll see how that lines up. Probably the expectation is it's a 3 with wing backs, which is what they've been playing previously. And it's kind of different, Paddy, isn't it? This run of fixture in February, more generally, seen Leicester drop points or be docked points this week for obviously all of the shenanigans that they've been involved with financially over the last couple of years. Now means this month Norwich City are playing 4 of the bottom 5, albeit one of those is in the FA Cup. Starts today with Blackburn, Oxford on Tuesday night. Then it's Birmingham here, Sheffield Wednesday here, and then Leicester to finish the month. I mean, it feel, and I know he kind of pushed back on what you said yesterday and said, well, or someone said yesterday and said, well, they're all big months in the context of the season, which of course absolutely they are. But for Norwich City's context, given the fixture list that is coming up, feels like, well, you can flip it. It feels like a huge opportunity for them to get themselves out of it and kind of continue on the trajectory they've been going. But clearly there's a risk to kind of be sucked into it as well. It's that jeopardy that's here.
And the flip side of all these equations you've mapped out, because it is the teams around them, is heaven forbid Blackburn get the win here today, gives them a massive leg up. And likewise, you go to Oxford and all the other ones, Sheffield Wednesday and Leicester and so on. So that's the jeopardy, the double jeopardy to this, that Norwich can put some clear water between themselves and that pack if they get a good haul of points in these next 4 or 5. But, equally, they can find themselves getting sucked back in when it just felt off the back of West Brom and Wrexham, and then obviously Coventry here, that was a thing they didn't need to worry too much about. It just shows you the ebb and flow.
We always say it, don't we, with this league? If you kind of can get carried away or there's a couple of results, it's got a nasty way of kind of catching you on the chin sometimes.
And the reality is, you look at the league table, it's so nip and tuck, it's so tight. Any given game cycle or pair of game cycles, you're back in it again. So, yeah, and I like the messaging from Clermont yesterday that what today can't be about is why didn't they get to the levels of Coventry or Middlesbrough, particularly because they're the two standout sides in the division. Why have they slipped back? Because that would then hint at, is there something in terms of the complacency that had crept in a little bit? Maybe thought the hard yards were done. No, he was very keen to squash that, both publicly, but also you got the sense he's been drilling that message into these players this week. But obviously the evidence now is going to be in front of our eyes in the next hour or so. And if the mindset isn't right, if the attitude isn't right, then you will get found out. And it doesn't matter, where you are, home or away in this league. And of course, Blackburn now come with that sense, which we've experienced with Norwich this season of, let's be honest, they weren't having Manning, those group of players, the majority of them anyway. Likewise, it looks like these Blackburn players weren't having Ishmael because they were dropping. He's now been removed. And even though it's a caretaker in Damien Johnson at the moment, they got that big win midweek against Sheffield Wednesday, and they will come here today. And there will just probably be amongst that group of Blackburn players, a sense that they're freed up to maybe try and express themselves and maybe impress the new guy, whoever that's going to be. So it doesn't make the task any easier. That's for sure. But that's the point I put to Philippe yesterday, and his answer was along the lines of, well, the way we work is it's about us, it's about what we do, it's about getting our mentality right, and if they do that, I guess, as was proven against Coventry, and not maybe with the result, but the performance at Blackburn, it doesn't really matter. Sorry, Middlesbrough. It doesn't really matter what other teams are going to do in this league, because if Norwich are at it, I think they've shown so far now under Clermont that they're more than a match for anybody in this division.
Yeah, nice to see Elliot Bennett here today. He's pitch side at the moment. We've seen him in the press box. One of football's good guys. He's back here. I think he's doing stuff for our colleagues at Radio Norfolk today. So good to see him back. Obviously, two of his former teams doing battle today. But yeah, I mean, just to pick up that point you mentioned, Paddy. It's a different sort of game to maybe what Norwich have been used to. If you think about what they've done under Philippe Clermont, and look, that's largely because there hasn't been that many teams beneath them. But there haven't been too many games where they've kind of had this jeopardy, and they've played teams in and around them to an extent. They're now going on a run of games where they are going to play that, and their improvement will mean teams come to Carrow Road and set up slightly differently to what they did, and certainly to the likes of what Coventry did and how Middlesbrough approached it. And it feels like it's going to be kind of a different test in that regard. So it is, as you say, a shift, and it's going to be interesting to see how well the players can take on that shift.
Well, the reason I pushed that comment through is because in that context, you probably do want a Jacob Wright. If it is and we don't know for definite, but if the mindset or the approach from Blackburn is we're going to effectively try and drop into a mid to lower block defensively, and you can try and break us down, and then we'll try and profit in terms of set pieces and transition counter moments, then players like Wright and McLean are going to get a bit more time and space on the ball, and we know that Jacob Wright is very good, particularly now if he looks forward in contrast to earlier in the season. You've got Ahmed, you've got Jallo, you've got Slimani, very clever player in them pockets, and Makama, if he's really at it, for a central midfielder of the technical prowess of Jacob Wright, he can only really express that if he's got options to hit. And it feels like that front four now do provide him with options. So, yeah, Kenny for the insurance, but hopefully it's Jacob Wright in a playmaker role today, getting plenty of the ball and time maybe as well to re-show us what he's all about. And I just feel with him, we're talking about Slimani in the 10 now. Over that Christmas period, it was Jacob Wright's the answer, because there was the Southampton game where he was excellent alongside Toure. And I think, I think it was after that they went to Preston just before Christmas, and he got found out a little bit. And it feels to me he's just slipped off. He's then come out of the side, and he's found minutes a bit harder to come by. But coming in today, performed today, and you might find he's got a little burst in these next 4 or 5 games where he is the man in possession, because we know there'll be no Pella Matson for this period. And Sam Field, he's there in waiting in the wings. But if Jacob Wright is performing, as we know he can do, then he might just create himself a little niche alongside Kenny for this next swing.
Todd Cantwell back today. We've seen him taking a look at the pitch. I mean, obviously he knows these surroundings quite well. What are kind of your thoughts ahead of his reunion with Norwich here today?
Well, there's a lot of water flowed under those bridges, and there's a link with Clermont clearly from their time at Rangers. I think it's safe to say, without reopening the old can of worms, that it ended pretty sourly at both clubs. and you can debate all you want the reasons for or who was responsible for those endings, but what you can't dispute is he is a success story from Norwich's academy. Yeah. You know, he's a Dereham lad who came through all the way through. He wasn't parachuted in at 16 or 17. He came through from whatever age he was, 8, 9, 10. Very rare. And he was part of 2 title-winning sides and contributed in that Premier League season as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's not forget that first Premier League season, albeit ending relegation, he was arguably one of, if not their best player.
Yeah.
And really from there to now, it is sad how it has ended, because at that point you thought this is a lad with it all in front of him who will go on and have an excellent career. Hasn't happened so far. He's 28 later this month, which was a bit staggered by. But time does roll on very quick. And I'll be interested. For me, it's just an interest really in passing in terms of the reaction. I'd like to think, you know, he doesn't get pelters because, as I say, you know, he probably will reflect back and think he could have done things differently. But equally, there's maybe others around the club at the time who could have done as well. But as I say, for me, you strip it all back. He is one of their own who made it and made it playing for Norwich. So for me, that should be a cause for not celebration, but a cause for, okay, we're now talking in terms of this academy needs to be plugged back in and producing players. You know, he is an example of what if you get it right, what you can get from within Norfolk, not from further afield.
Yeah, absolutely. I've said this a few times. I only spoke to Todd a handful of times, but I always found him quite thoughtful as kind of footballers go. He didn't really, as maybe to his detriment subsequently, but you never really got kind of the media trained stuff from him. I didn't think so. Yeah, going to be interesting, but hopefully he's not a name we're really talking about too much today in a context of, well, wasn't he really good and wasn't it great when he scored, or not great when he scored that goal? So yeah, let's see how it transpires in that regard. How's this going to go then, Paddy? It's a big game. Is it in a must-win category, must-not-lose category? Where are you placing this? And obviously, how do you see it going?
I wouldn't. Yeah, must either way. Not for me, no, because we're not 4 games out from the end of the season, and there's a terminal element to the outcome today. But equally, it would be a rather uncomfortable departure from Carrow Road if they've got beat today, because of what it means in the context of it makes that Oxford midweek trip even bigger then, and we don't need to bring that again around this group. It felt like they navigated into more calmer waters. I think it will be tough today. I just think post-Ishmael, you probably will see a different Blackburn to recent weeks.
Some big wins on here, by the way.
Yeah,
4-0.
I don't really share that level
4-1.
of optimism. Yeah, I could see a draw, but
5-0.
Yeah, 1-0 to Norwich. I could probably. I'm clear. I'm more than 1-0 than the 5-0. I've got to be honest. But you would like to think if Clement, as he's messaged externally, has got that internally right, and these players come out with the right mindset, they'll have enough to get past this Blackburn. But I do think it'll be a very tight one. 2-1 Norwich.
We're on the same page again. I was going to go 2-1. I think Norwich will edge it today. I think they've got enough quality, and even though they are a point separate in the table, it does feel heading into this game. Of course, it can be very different when it begins. But I think it does have the makings. It feels like 2 teams that, even though they're close at the moment, maybe won't become the end of the season, or at least that's the hope from a Norwich perspective. So, yeah, I'm going to go for Norwich to edge it. But to be different, I'll add a goal on. I'll say 3-1 Norwich. But I think it will be tight and edgy and difficult. And it's going to be really intriguing. We will have every kick, every angle covered from this afternoon. Pinkham.com, the place to go. Paddy will be speaking to Philippe Clement after the game and absolutely asking nothing about Josh Sargent. And you'll be able to watch and read all of those quotes later on as well. Thank you very much for joining us. Remember, it's a 12:31 kickoff today, that extra minute for a campaign that Tom Lockyer is doing around CPR and stuff, which is a brilliant cause. And as I said, we'll have every angle covered from today. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, whether you're Carrow Road or elsewhere. And we'll see you again very soon.